Well, I wish you luck, Taylor. I hope that you do have some success and that you do not get rained on too much. But we have managed to find 2 little cute hyenas of our own. So this is going to be quite a short sighting, unfortunately, because there's no adults around. So we're just showing you a quick glimpse of them. Ultimately, the den they're still too young to be here without the adults. And so we're just showing you guys that they're still well, happy and alive and doing just fine. Now, the darker one, which seems to be the more dominant of the 2 from the last few sightings we've had, is lying right out in the open, is chewing a bit of grass. And I'm sure at this age, the teething is out of control. And so everything is a chew toy. They chew grass and sticks and bones and anything really that they can get their little teeth on. And the other one is lying quite safely inside the den at the entrance and looks very fast asleep. I suppose it's a snoozy kind of day. It's a warmish, clammy afternoon. There's a bit of cloud cover, a bit of a breeze, and so why not take a little afternoon siesta and take it very easy. But such cute little things, and they're growing by the day. I actually can't believe how big they are, considering when we first saw them, and it feels like just yesterday that we had these tiny little hyena cubs running around in this area, and now we've got these kind of 2, I suppose they're not big, but they're much larger than what they were, and far naughtier and far braver than what we saw a few weeks or months ago. They're now actually starting to come out and go around all over the place, and they seem to be quite curious. When we first arrived, they kind of came towards us, and then they got a bit of a fright from the impalas that are just behind the termite mound. There's 2 impalas that are actually quite close, and then they went scuttling back towards there, and they've now both settled in this particular area and are taking it quite nice and chilled. I wonder where the adults are. I would have thought that maybe if they were out like this that the adults would be somewhere close by, but I've scanned all over and I've checked around the den. There's no sign of any of the adults being here. Maybe they've found themselves some shade a little further afield and are still in close enough reach that if something were to happen and these little ones were to squeal, that they'd be here in a matter of 2 seconds. So maybe that's why the little ones are still out and about. But look at how long the legs are of the one on the left. You can see they're getting massive, and I love when hyenas are this age because they look awkward. They become these animals that have long legs and their small little body, and it kind of looks as though they trip over themselves because they haven't quite grown into these legs just yet, and those front legs in particular. We know that the hyenas have much longer front legs than they do back legs, and so it kind of takes them a bit of time to actually grow into them and become the right sort of proportion to be able to actually control what's going on. But that's very cool. I'm so glad that they're starting to get a lot more relaxed with us. First few times, I think if we had come here, they would have scuttled in and wouldn't have come out. But you can see they're not even paying any attention to me. Even with me talking, I haven't had one of them really look at us. Since we turned off the car, they've become very chilled. You can see also that there's a bit of scratching going on. So even though this is a fairly new den site for them, I would imagine that the fleas are starting to build up inside there, and so they will scratch and itch quite a lot. So Lana, who's 14 years old, Lana, so hyenas have a bit of a different system to what the lions do in terms of introducing their young ones to the clan. What you find with hyenas is that there's a very, very rigid social structure. So it's not quite like the lions, where the lions, there will be lionesses, and yes, there will be a kind of lead lioness, but it's not really that sort of structured. Whereas with hyena society, there will be a matriarchal female, and then there will be hyenas that follow on from her until you get the lowest ranking member. And according to how they kind of sit within the clan will dictate how early these little ones are exposed to the rest of them. Generally, you find the matriarchal female, normally the other hyenas, because they follow that matriarch around and then they kind of are submissive to her, they often meet the little ones quite early on and they then get kind of pushed away and they go off. But these little ones, which are from probably the lowest ranking member of the clan that we have here, as far as I know, they have not yet seen any of the matriarchs. I suppose it could have happened at night when we're not around, but as far as I know, the matriarchal females have, well, the high-ranking females, let's call it, have not come into this area just yet. And so these little ones haven't met anybody and don't know the rest of the clan that well, because generally the low-ranking females will den away from the high-ranking females and split off during their denning period because they just are that low down, and the adult sort of matriarchs will take over the best denning spots, and so these guys then get pushed aside a little bit. So it's not the same as where they'll have a den and then once they become big enough, they then get introduced. You'll find a situation that as they get a little bit older, so they then get taken well, they start moving around on their own, and then from there they start interacting with little bits of the clan, and it depends on whether they are male or female as to how they will be seen within the grouping. If they are males, they're going to be quite low-ranking, particularly because they come from a low-ranking female. They're going to maintain that rank, and even as a female, actually, they will be the same. If they were high-ranking males, or a high-ranking female and they were male cubs, then you would find that they'd sit much higher on the food chain than any of the other males, but at the end of the day, these are low-ranking individual that had these, and so these are ones, whether they're male or female, are going to be right at the bottom. Now, Rebecca did ask me a question, and I've forgotten exactly what the question was. So, Rebecca, if you can just repeat that for me. You can see the one is just grooming a little bit. There we go. So, Bree, so you're asking what are the differences of ages between these two? Well, I would imagine mere minutes, given that they are from the same mother. So both of these two are from the same mom. They are part of the same litter, and they do not come from different mothers. The one is a lot darker than the other one, and that's just a genetic thing. It's just that it's developing its spot slightly later. And what's interesting about this is that generally when you see a hyena that doesn't have spots and it's dark like that, you would think that's still very young, and particularly the one that's a little bit more spotted would be a little bit more dominant, but actually in this case the darker one is the more dominant of the two. Now, unfortunately, like I said, I'm going to have to leave our two little hyena cubs, even though they're so cute, because there's no adults present. And so while I carry on and see what else I can find, I believe Jamie has got 4 beautiful spotted predators of her own, but are also taking a little bit of a nap.